Welcome, Aries, and welcome to my July Moon Magic Deep Dive Forecast. I'm going to unpack the month from a lunar perspective. We've got a huge amount of planetary activity, some of it's very rare, shaping up. But at the heart of all of this, the story of the king and the queen of the sky, the sun and the moon, and the way they interact is critically important. And by the end of the video, you have a clearer picture of what's upcoming in terms of your energy, work, relationships, or finances. Thank you so much for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundel. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. On the screen is the full moon at the end of June. Why? Well, the full moon energy provides a backdrop for the next 2 weeks. And the Capricorn full moon each year is the classic work-life balance moon, because if we think the sun in the sign of Cancer is very much about home, family, nurture, the moon is in the worldly Capricorn very much about work, our responsibilities and obligations. But if you look at the position of Neptune in your zodiac sign, it's in a T square with this opposition between the sun and the moon. So a great deal of sensitivity as June came to a close, and perhaps some lower vitality too, and maybe some confusion, particularly with Mercury, the planet of communication, in a retrograde from the time of the full moon. So through the first 2 weeks of the new month, it isn't necessarily going to be easy to gain clarity. But if we go through to the 7th of the month, we have an Aries quarter moon. We have two quarter moons a month. They're very important. They get very little coverage. It's where the sun and the moon are at a 90-degree angle, and they provide a backdrop for 1 week. But this is a quarter moon that has a particularly heavy vibe, to be honest, because there's Saturn, the planet of limitation, in an exact conjunction with the moon. So it may be around home or family responsibilities. It could be around a practical matter like something that needs doing in a physical sense to your property, and maybe it is a do-it-yourself job that is demanding your attention, or maybe you have a contractor that you're hoping to come in and to support you with something, and it may be that that just seems a little bit out of reach. Mercury still in that retrograde isn't helping the equation. So I think with the sun squaring up Saturn through the first 10 days on the back of the sun and the moon's T-square to Neptune, that low energy is going to be a theme through the first 2 weeks of the month. That takes us to the Cancer new moon at the heart of the month, which follows on from a Mercury cazimi on the 13th. This is the 14th, and Mercury is in a conjunction with the new moon. That's the best new moon of the year for the moon, because the moon rules the sign of Cancer. And clearly with Mercury there's something we need to communicate. But Mercury in its retrograde is also in a square with Saturn. It's a bit broader, but it is there. So we may still feel that sense of inhibition. It may be more difficult to say how we feel, but look at Uranus, the planet of freedom. It's in a square with Venus. So if there is something around a close personal relationship which just isn't flowing, it's possible that the frustration could really mount up, and Uranus really provokes Venus, and there is then a frank exchange. However, if we go then forwards to the 21st, we have the next quarter moon in Libra. Now, one of the things that intrigues me about planets is their synchronicity. So when we had the summer solstice, the sun moved into Cancer, we had a Libran quarter moon. And as the sun prepares to leave Cancer, we have a Libra quarter moon. So there it is in that 7th house. Now, that is an opportunity to try to get the dialogue going. And it's also a chance perhaps to say how we feel. But look at the position of Mars, your ruler. That's in a very tense right angle with Venus, which can create a greater sense of desire. There's someone we're really drawn to. But Venus is in its full in the sign of Virgo. It's not really a very hot position for passion, but we also have Uranus in a very strong link with Jupiter. So I think that part of you that can be much more go-getting, dynamic. If there is something that's really bogged down these first 3 weeks of the month, you may be in the mood to be much more outspoken and really get it off your chest. And of course, on the 22nd, we have the sun making its way into Leo. Much better for you. It's a fire energy like you, much more outgoing, much more dynamic. But the sun will meet up with Jupiter for the first time since 2015 in Leo, which is terrific, which brings us to the Aquarius full moon of the 29th, which is in an exact conjunction with Jupiter. There is a cazimi on the day. We haven't had a cazimi since 2015 in the sign of Leo. So that's particularly warm and radiant. But look at the position of Pluto and the moon on the other side of the heavens in an exact conjunction. I think there could be some big decisions at the end of this month. It may even feel like you're at a complete crossroads, whether it is around a close relationship or whether it is around your long-term plan, whether it is around a friendship. And Mars is in a very straight, strident right angle with Venus still. So there is the potential for tension there. What I would say is that Mercury by this time is at least going forwards. It doesn't come out of the post retrograde shadow until the 7th of August, but it does give you the chance to perhaps articulate how you feel, but it is still in that right angle with Saturn. So it's a month, July, Aries, when it's not going to be easy for things to flow in an emotional context around your family, anything to do with property matters. There could be a lot of frustration, and that frustration could really be boiling over by the time we get to the end of the month. But I think in a way it could provoke you to confront a situation that hasn't quite been working in the way you would like. And that part of you that can be very fiery and passionate definitely gets a chance to come to life as we get to the end of the month. I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances next. Just before I do, I've reduced the price of my personal horoscope reports. For many years, it was buy two, get 30% off. Now it's buy one and get three. Because of the cost of living increases, I want to make these as accessible as possible. The one you pay for is your life roadmap report. Helps us to understand the patterns playing out in our lives. The free charts is your 12-month transit forecast, but also your soul, draconic, karmic analysis, which is absolutely fascinating. Please see the link below for more. If you've yet to watch your July monthly forecast, please check that out by clicking on the eye on the screen. You can also check out your Jupiter into Leo 13-month forecast as well. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. And also you can sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning and get your early day celestial pit stop. So to summarize, as far as energy is concerned, I do believe there could be a lot of frustration this month, and particularly through the first 10 days, your vitality could be much lower than you would like, unfortunately. So how do we deal with that? Well, with Saturn and Neptune in your sign, the critical thing is not to spread yourself too thinly. Keep it simple and focus on what's absolutely essential. But there may be some tender emotional issues that you do need to grapple with. And if a relationship of any kind isn't really working, however much you may try to skirt around the issue, not suggesting you will, but if you're tempted to do that, it really won't be productive. Once the sun fires its way into Leo, sign it rules, merging with Jupiter in the last phase of the month, you have a fantastic opportunity to be much more go-getting. but with Venus and Mars in quite tense relationships with uh, Uranus and each other, I feel that there could be some gritty stuff that needs to be looked at and a big fork in the road as the month comes to a close. And that could provoke you to speak out and find your fire, even if earlier in the month it had been your energy rather low. As far as your professional situation is concerned, if you do work from home, it could feel like you're a bit separated from your colleagues, even if it's something you're really quite used to. It may be that extra demands in terms of flexibility, exactly the hours you work, the availability, or there may be some demand to actually go into work in a physical context, which could prove to be a little bit challenging. As far as your finances are concerned, I do feel that your second house, as we go into the month, has Chiron in it. And one of the things you can work on this month is really your sense of value. Because if we feel that we're valuable, we're much more likely to attract goodness to us. But as far as your professional situation is concerned, if you are able to work collaboratively with others and also be open to new technologies and approaches, I think it could be a very strong month. What about relationships? Well, I feel if you're very much in simpatico with someone, I don't think this month is going to challenge that at all. And in fact, by the end of the month, you could look to do something much more social together, which could prove to be really very exciting. If you're single, you could find yourself at the end of the month having a real attraction to someone new. And it could almost be, I don't want to use the word obsessive, but it can certainly be very powerful and draw you in a very rapid way. But I think if you are in a tide that you're not enjoying and the sharing of feelings between you is really quite challenging, the attritional energies of Uranus and Mars to Venus are going to be very hard to make that relationship work unless you can have that heart to heart. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Aries. Have a great July. All the best and goodbye for now.